Little Grandpa's whiskey in the jar. Thinks it'll make out for a great day. Speaking of great days, we got the one and only T-Boz on the line, getting ready to deliver to us words of wisdom and moments of meditation. Good morning, sir.
I thought you were going to say, speaking of whiskey, and then you were going to introduce me.
Well, we have.
I'm sitting here, and I'm saying, gee, what an intro. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. What an interesting introduction. I thought, speaking of whiskey, I didn't know where you were going with that, but good morning. Good morning. Everyone, I got to tell you, we have the most fun about 30 seconds before airtime. Jock and I kind of get pumped up for this, and we're still coming off the laughter of 30 seconds ago. So good morning. It's Friday Eve. Come on in. Come on in. Plenty of rooms in the classroom. Mike, leave the door open. I know there's some stragglers this time of year. Some people are trades guys, and they're trying to get some things done, or they're finishing up an estimate or something, so they're racing into the classroom. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. And before you all sit down, Jock's going to laugh when I do this. Before you all sit down, I want everybody to say, 1, 2, 3, jump. There you go. Do it again. Jump. Okay. Jock, it's amazing what people, very good, what people do when you're holding a microphone and you're up on stage. But Jock and I, we'll tell you one day, folks, why the jump is so funny. So come on
Tell
in.
him now, Tom. Tell him now.
I was telling Jock how I do jumping jacks before I come on the air because I want to be pumped up. So he said, don't hit your head on the ceiling. I said, but white guys can't jump. So then he mentioned Pete Havlicek. I don't know about sports.
Pete Maravich.
He said, because I'm Southern Italian, I'm like dark skinned. I can jump almost as high as African American. So the two of us were, anyway, you had to be there. It was unbelievable.
I'm sure the top of Tom's head right now is probably have roof burns on it.
Right. And the house is built in 27, and so I have an 8-foot ceiling. So I'm really trying to get up there. But Friday Eve, first full day of summer. That's the good news. The bad news is we already lost 1 minute of time in daylight. So enjoy the long days. Thank you, Jock, for having me on. Words of wisdom, moments of inspiration. Come on in, everyone. And you did a good job jumping. So let's get rolling with the show because we got a lot of ground to cover. A very interesting topic, kind of a provoking topic, and if you will. But before we get rolling, I want to do the shout-outs, and I hope the guys down in Middlebury are listening. So we're going to do the shout-outs. First shout-out, all of the classmates who donated and sent in things about their dads last week. Got a lot of compliments on that. Got a lot of text messages. The fan mail is incredible. And so thank you all for taking time. I know you're all business people or career people or community service people, retired. You got grandchildren, children, but you made time to get those in, and I appreciate it. The next shout-out is to a business down in Middlebury, a landscaping company called Site One. Now, I can't go too much into detail, but about 3 weeks ago, I was in a dither with a product that I needed and couldn't find it anywhere in the northwest corner. It's a specific product for the mums we grow here on the farm. And Jonathan and his guys, I'll tell you, they came through for me kind of the way my father used to run his business. They jumped through hoops. They made it happen. And I got to tell you, in the world of big business, there's still companies that treat people like they're the only customer in the store. So if Jonathan and the guys are listening, thank you again. They are in Middlebury, which is the northwest corner. So if you guys need stuff for your garden needs and whatnot, head on down there. See Jonathan. Tell him the T-Boz and Jock Williams sent you down there. And thank you guys for doing that for me. I appreciate it. So over to, I want everyone to fill in the blank. Stand the coffee man. Boy, what a bright group we have today, Jock. What a bright group. So what do we got in the coffee pot today, Stan? Oh, house blend. And espresso. Ooh, so there's a choice. People can have espresso and house blend. And what do we have? Oh, tiramisu. Oh, look at the size of that thing. Bring the camera in for the people at home. You could jump in that thing. There's the word jump again. the tiramisu, and all of this is donated by the Venetian over there on East Main Street. So if you guys are looking for a real nice meal, special occasion, I want to thank them for sending up things for the snack table. There's a new person. Yes, you can go up whenever you want, man. You get what you want. Not a problem. Just make sure Jock gets his first. So we took care of the shout-outs. We took care of Stan. Thank you, Stan, again, for a great job with the coffee and the refreshment. Okay, today's topic came to me. I was inspired by this for a couple of things. One, personally, for me, Tuesday was the 8-year anniversary that my wife, Lori Ann Bozzi, passed away. And then there was also something very sad that happened. I won't mention his name, but a priest here in Torrington, and a cousin of his was killed in a foreign country. I'm not going to name it. We're just going to leave it at that. And I struggled with, here's a man who's a priest, and they're not insulated, boys and girls. And so I'm sure he's struggling with that. And I know a lot of you in the classroom, we're 6 months into the year. Some of you have been given some health news. Some of you have been given some financial news. There's been news about children. There's been news about grandchildren. There's been news. And so I know your hearts are heavy with a lot of these things. I know the priest here in Torrington's heart is very heavy with what he's going through. Our prayers for him. And then I know myself, though I have formed a new life, we do pause, my daughters and I, on the 20th of June, and remember my wife and their mother. And so knowing what a lot of you are going through and struggling with, this scripture verse, and I built a whole talk around this scripture verse jumped at me, and it's something that I'm sure everyone thinks about, and it's Mark 12, verse 15, chapter 12, verse 15, and it says, "Why are you testing me?" Boom. Now that is Jesus' response to the Pharisees and Sadducees who were trying to trick him, and they went up and said, "Hey, Rabbi, we got this coin here with a picture of Caesar. Who's more important, Caesar or God?" And of course, everyone knows the answer. He says, "Give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and give to God what is God, which is your heart." And then he says to them, "Why are you testing me?" And so I want to turn that verse around and put it to all of us, myself included. And we're standing in front of God, and I'm sure we're all asking this question. I'm sure the priest here in Torrington, why are you testing me? Okay? We look at James chapter 1, verse 3. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfast strength. Boom. So if you feel like you're being tested, you may be being called. But if you feel like you're being tested, when you are tested, your faith, grow strength. Disney found this out when they built the perfect tree, but they built it inside of a building. And the tree was to be drought resistant and all kinds of things. But when they put the tree outside, it died. It fell over because it did not grow any roots, because Disney didn't have any wind in their program for this tree, this artificial tree that they made. So James tells us that when we're going and we're being tested, our faith, we come out of it stronger. And I can attest to that. And some of you listening who walked the walk with me from married life to widowship know that you do come out stronger. We look further at 1 Corinthians, and it says, chapter 13, verse 5, no temptation has ever taken you over, and that it is not common to man. God is faithful and will help you and beyond your ability to endure it. So anything that's coming at us, any temptation, any challenge that we have, God is faithful, and he has given us the ability to endure it. So when we ask ourselves the question, why are you testing me? And that's a valid question. It's okay, boys and girls, to ask questions. Don't be browbeaten into your faith, whatever it is, and just be like I always say, in a milking stall. Ask questions. Ask your pastor, your priest, your spiritual director, someone who you admire, someone who you have a close friendship with. So whatever temptation is coming our way, we have been given the ability to endure it. Now, we talk about tests. We go back to Genesis chapter 3, the very beginning. We got Adam and Eve, right? And what did God tell Adam and Eve? He said, you could eat everything in the garden. You could do it. You could eat the tomatoes, the eggplant, the squash, the peppers, all of it is yours. Do what you want, okay? But that big tree in the middle, that's off limits. You can't touch it. I don't want anybody eating the avocados. Just leave it alone. But what happens? First of all, Adam was told to guard the garden, but he wasn't. He was probably out maybe playing, baseball or something. And so the serpent comes in, and Eve is there left unprotected. So, for years, Eve got the bad rap on this, boys and girls, but there's two in this, all right? As you study Scripture, you'll learn that. So the serpent comes in, and he disguises himself and says, Eve, why are you not eating the fruit off that big, nice tree in the middle of the garden? And, we can't eat it. And the serpent says, what are you talking about, babe? You eat that fruit, you'll be like a god. You'll be like him. He deceives her. So what does she do? Boom, she fails Garden of Eden 101. And the rest is history. But what happened is, rather than trusting in God, rather than trusting in the truth, she was deceived. Okay, and people think that Eve was set up and Adam was set up, but they were given free will, like we are. So when we get that question, like in Mark, why are you testing me? We have free will. And if we look further down into Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and rely or lean, some Bibles say lean not on your own understanding. I like the word lean, right? Because when you're leaning against something, you're applying that pressure. You're trying to hold that thing up, a lot of strength. So what it's saying is, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. And poor Eve leaned on her own understanding, her desire to want to be like God, and listen to the serpent. And so she was tested. They were tested, but they failed the test. And we'll find out later what it says in Romans, that she didn't look inward into the faith that God had given her. Here's an unknown quote. This is great. It says, our greatest weapon against stress, because we do get stress when we feel that God is testing us, our greatest weapon against stress is to choose one thought over another. Bing, bang, boom. That's what St. Paul tells us. He says to set your mind on higher things. And the word set is another key word there. He doesn't say put, set. When you set something down, boy, you put it, right? Like a mason. When they set a stone, they put it in. That thing doesn't move. My house was built in 1927. That fireplace and this foundation ain't going anywhere, because when they put that stone in there 96 years ago, they set it in. So St. Paul tells us to set our minds on higher things. And stress comes really from what they say is choosing one thought over another. Unfortunately, poor Eve chose the wrong thought, the thought of desire for power, okay? But when we feel we are tested by God, we need to go back to Proverbs, trust in the Lord, and we need, as it says, to realize that we have the ability to endure it, and getting around people who know us and love us can help us. So, Jock, with that, I think we're at 11:30 on the nose. Why don't we go to the commercials and then sponsors, and we'll come right back to the show.
All right. Thank you so much, T-Boz. We want to take this opportunity to thank the sponsor of the Feel Good Show, 5 Point Center for the Visual Arts, and 5 Points Arts Center, with two convenient locations for you, one in the heart of downtown Torrington at the 5 Points Traffic Circle, and two at 855 University Drive on the former Torrington Yukon campus branch, exhibiting international, national, and regional artists. We want to thank them for their support of Torrington Community Radio, WAPJ, and the Feel Good Show, for allowing us to bring you the quality community programming that you're witnessing at this time. And with that being said, we'll return the show back over to T-Boz for more words of wisdom and moments of meditation.
And thank you as I jump along here, Jock. James chapter 1, verse 12 says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life." Okay, now, the crown of life may not be money and a big house, and those things are fine. The crown of life that I received by staying steadfast when I lost my wife 8 years ago, the crown that I got is a lot of people who are listening to the show. I talk about these people all the time. Very, very good friends. I've never had friends like this before. Very, very good friends who have championed me and supported me, not financially, but with their hearts. Okay, so the crown of life, I stood the test of time. I was tested. I said the same thing to God. Why are you testing me? I'm visually impaired. I can't see. If we lose her, it's me with the girls. I mean, I don't drive. They were old enough to drive, but I wasn't able to help them in certain things. We needed their mother, but he took her home. But because I stayed in the faith, right, then I was given the crown of life. Peter Marshall says, "When we long for life without difficulty, we are reminded of the great oaks that grow stronger in contrary winds," meaning winds that go a different way, "and that diamonds are made under pressure." Boom. So when we're under pressure, right, like we said about the Disney fake tree, when we're under pressure, when we're going through stuff, that's when we're being made better. And so I feel that when I came out of the situation, when I lost my wife, I feel I'm a better person today than I was before that. John tells us in chapter 4, verse 1, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit. Test the spirits to see if they are from God." So sometimes when you're saying, "God, are you testing me?" Test it. So now it's a reverse. Test it. Pray on it. Again, talk to a spiritual director. Talk to a friend. And make sure that the things that are entering your head, okay, are from God. You have to discern those things, but you can only discern those things in the silence and in prayer and in reflection or meditation. John also says in chapter 14, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." Okay, now I know some people, personally, they are at some very stressful things. Okay, I have a friend who's in St. Francis Hospital. We're not talking today about those heavy problems. Of course, you're going to be troubled. We're talking about the day-to-day types of things that we experience. But it's so true. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Put your faith in God. Don't get caught up as Eve did in the temptation of hearing, as John says, the wrong spirit. We move over to Psalms chapter 26, verse 2, and it says, "Prove me, O Lord. Try me and test my heart and mind." That's where God lives, in our heart and mind. Okay, so prove me, O Lord. In other words, show that I am a follower of you. Show me that I believe in you. Show me that I walk the walk and talk the talk, as they say today. And test my heart and mind. So when we're saying, "Why are you testing me?" actually what came out of my experience in that test was that I did really, before I lost my wife, I was yapping all the time about God. But you want to know the truth? I was more into it after I went through that experience and came out on the other side. I felt I was more of a faithful person, more of a follower of God after I had been tested, like a diamond under pressure, okay, like a wind, like the oak trees in the crosswind. We look at Genesis. You talk about tests, chapter 22, verse 1 to 24. We're not going to go through the whole thing. But we talk about Abraham, right? That is Abraham, right? You're going to be a descendant, right? Talk about the crown of life. Your descendants will be numerous like the stars, right? So there we have Abraham. And God tells him, "Take your son Isaac, go up to the mountain of Moab, and make him a burnt offering." Why? You got this right. But what does Abraham do? Because he trusts in the Lord, as Proverbs 3, chapter 3, verse 5 says. Okay, and he discerns that it's God telling him this. So he grabs the boy, a donkey, a helper, up the path they go. Everyone knows the story. He starts building the big fire, And he tells his son Isaac, go get more sticks, go get more sticks. And the kid's getting the sticks. And all of a sudden he looks at his father and he says, Pop, I don't see a goat anywhere around here. Like, what is the offering? And Abraham says, relax. God will provide the offering. But meanwhile, in his head, his knees are probably shaking. He's like, I hope something happens soon because I don't want to sacrifice my son. And it was a long time for Abraham and Sarah to have a son. When God told Abraham and Sarah that Sarah was pregnant, Sarah laughed. Imagine laughing at God. She laughed. So now here is his only son. He lights the fire. He goes to get the boy, and what does he hear in the bush? Bah! God produces a ram. And so he sacrifices the ram instead of his son. But he was steadfast in his faith. He came out with the crown of glory because he's the father of all religions, Muslim, Christian, and Judaism. Okay, so God has given him the crown of life because he stayed focused. He stayed with God as his trustworthy friend. And he didn't waver. He didn't listen to idle spirits, as it said in an earlier quote. So we, too, sometimes, we may feel like, why are we being tested? But I promise all of you, God will produce a ram in your lives, in your challenges. God will produce a ram. You just have to stay focused. It's not easy, but that's what prayer and faith does. Albert Einstein says, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Now, he's talking more of success principles, but I'm going to turn around to faith principles. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. The opportunity for what? The opportunity to meditate, the opportunity to prayer. I'm repeating myself, but the opportunity to get with friends and talk to people. Okay? I'm sure the priest here in town is counseling with family members and other priests, maybe even the bishop. You know, they have to go sometimes up a level to get help too. They're human. Don't let the collar and the robes fool you. They're flesh and blood just like us, okay? And so I'm sure he's struggling, but the opportunity to maybe draw closer to God. Lee Iacocca says that when you're going through adversity, get busy. Plow through the anger. A lot of times when we say, why are you testing me? We're angry. I was angry. I know some of you in the audience are kind of angry with some of the things that have come your way in the last 6 months. But Lee Iacocca has good news because he reflects the gospel. The gospels tell us, keep busy, be productive. Don't sit there with, St. Paul says, with your head and dragging your knuckles on the ground. Lift your eyes to the mountain. Okay? So Lee Iacocca, everybody knows he invented the Mustang and saved Ford Motor Company. But plow through the anger. Be productive. Very important. We look over at Job chapter 23, verse 10, and it says, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, I will come out as gold. So God already knows the way that he's trying you, and he knows that you can endure it. Okay? Now, someone may say to me, but Boz, your wife passed away. Where's the gold? The gold is in the event that, unfortunately, there's disease and sickness in the world. I was happy that she went peacefully. I was happy that she wasn't murdered or killed in these gun shootings and things like that. All right? But though she didn't live a long life, she was only 56, the life that God provided for me now with the people I have and the friends and the love of Veronica, known as Lady Boz, is a way of God telling me, Tommy, I've taken care of you. I've tried you. Lori is in heaven with me. She doesn't want to come back here, boys and girls. Trust me. Okay? But he's provided a pathway, as Jock says all the time, with people, living people here that have nurtured me and guided me and loved me. And so we did win. We did come out as gold, my late wife and I. Not in the way that we wanted it. I mentioned last week, my friend Tommy, he's actually today is his 60th wedding anniversary. They're up at the Cape, he and his wife Carmi. Would I have liked things to go that way? Would Veronica have liked things to go that way? Absolutely. But for some reason, I'm convinced that my life was going to be with two women. my late wife, from when I was 21 to 58, and Lady Boz has taken me the rest of the way. And one day when I get to heaven, I'll have the answer. Right now, I stay the course. Okay? So we keep moving along here. Henry Kissinger has a great quote, and he says this, and we can all feel like this. There cannot be another stressful event next week. My schedule is full. Boom. So, right, don't we say to God, how much can I handle? I'm sure Jock says sometimes with the things he has in his life. And I know all of you are listening. You got one thing and then another thing. Why are you testing me? Right? We come back to that. How much more can you give me? But what we learned from another great person here, his name is Andrew Bernstein, says this in reflection to what Kissinger says. And what he says is the truth is, it's not the traffic jams, it's not the health problems, it's not the kids, it's not the news on the radio, it's not all of that stuff that gives us the stress when we feel that God is testing us. What gives us the stress comes from thoughts in those circumstances. Boom, right back over to the thoughts when we talk about Eve, we talk about Abraham. I'm sure his thoughts weren't too good when he thought he was going to sacrifice his son, and we go right back to our early reading in the thought. It's all about the mind. So what Bernstein is saying is that the stress comes from the thoughts in those circumstances. What does St. Paul tells us? He says, be grateful in all circumstances, be patient in affliction, persistent in prayer, joyful in hope. Okay, so what Kissinger is saying is true, but Bernstein gives us a guide here. We look at Josiah Gilbert Holland, and he says, calmness, I love this, calmness is the cradle of power. Boom, calmness. What is he talking about, really? Prayer, stepping aside, getting out of life for a minute, retreat. Mahatma Gandhi says this, there is more to life than increasing its speed. Boom. Some of us are so busy, going so fast, and then God is testing us, and we're trying to get through it. We're productive and all that, but we're not really taking a minute to be calm, to be still, to find peace. Calmness is the cradle of power, and that reflects what Alcoholics Anonymous talks about. They talk about let go, let God. Sometimes when you say, God, why are you testing me? Let it go. He'll give you an answer. The very funny Lily Tomlin, remember, one ringy dingy, two ringy dingy. She says, for fast acting relief, try slowing down. Boom. Just what Mahatma Gandhi says. And what do we mean by slowing down? Prayer, meditating, getting with people that we love, getting with people that we care about as we feel that we're being tested, if we feel that we're having a hard time here. That way we can draw strength. We look at Romans 5, verse 3 and 4, and it says, we rejoice in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Boom. Be joyful in hope. Hope is poured out to us like a libation, Paul says. Hope. So when you're asking God, why are you testing me? Have hope. Have hope. And then the last quote before we get to the end here, Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. This sums up everything. This is where our solace is. Test yourself. Wow. Test yourself to see if you are in the faith. Just what I was talking about myself earlier. I'm sure the priest in town here is testing himself to see if he's in the faith. Test yourself to see if you're in the faith. Examine yourselves. Or do you not recognize that Jesus is in you, unless indeed you failed the test? Boom. Do you really feel, those of you listening and in this classroom, do you really feel in your heart that Jesus and God is in you? Because if you don't really feel that like Abraham did, if you don't really feel that when you ask the question, why are you testing me? You're not going to be able to handle the answer. You know, in life, we say some people get the bad breaks and other people get the bridges. To some people, your bad breaks, boys and girls, might be their bridges. But if you go back to Corinthians, if you really don't feel that God is in you, that spirit, we talk about that all the time in the show. We have a God living inside of us. Not what they thought back in before the Jews, but the pagans thinking that God is up in a cloud somewhere. We have a God living, Emmanuel, within us. If you really don't believe it, then guess what? We failed the test. We failed the test. The way to answer the question, why are you testing me, is yes, be joyful in our suffering. Yes, God is in us. That's the way to pass the test. Do not stress the could-haves. If the should-haves would have been, they would have. Okay? So whatever you're going through, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Okay? Do not stress the could-haves. If it should have, it would have. And that's a way to get peace. We're going to go to our takeaway. There was a great poem called Footprints, right? Most of you know it. And you had, you see the sand and God is walking along with you through life, and you see two sets of footprints in the sand. And then all of a sudden, as you keep walking, there's only one set of footprints for a long way. And the person says to God, gee, when I was really struggling and having such a hard time, all I saw was one set of footprints. Where were you? God says to the person, that's when I carried you. Boom. Why are you testing me? That's when he carries you. He's carrying you. All of you in the audience, those of you at home watching, those of you listening, he's carrying you. You're not alone. The song at the end, I want you to listen to it and think of God as singing that to you. We're going to close. The best takeaway is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change. Right? Yeah, cannot change. The courage, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Let me do that again because my visual impairment. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. My friends, you have God within you. You have wisdom. You have faith. You have people who love you. When you say to God, why are you testing me? Remember one thing, the footprints, because he's carrying you. But through that test, you will come out much better, stronger, and more beautiful before you entered the test. Jock, would you like to tie a bow and get to our beautiful song?
How can I tie a bow around that? I mean, you say everything. I mean, you bring it home in a way that it's palatable, digestible, and we can all comprehend where you're coming from. And, there's just not much more to add to that, T-Boz.
Okay, well, with that, everyone, it's Friday. Boy, we jumped right into the ending, Jock. We're just a jumping bunch of guys here. And Jock and I are over 50. The fact that we can jump is a miracle. Okay? The fact that we can jump, the fact that we can even do this show is a miracle. So it's Friday Eve, everyone. Enjoy the long days. Get out there and enjoy the weather. I know it's going to rain. Gene Kelly danced in the rain. So go out and don't be all mashugana because it's raining, okay? Go out and enjoy it. Listen to this song and think of it as God singing it to you. Everyone, I thank you for the time. And we will be back next week, but I will not be here on the Thursday after July 4th. We'll talk about that next week. Everyone, God bless you. Thank you, Jock. Thank you for the opportunity. And we will see you all. Remember, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Bye-bye.